Welcome to our listeners, welcome to our viewers, welcome to this edition of To The Point. It's Monday, the 6th day of May, 2024. And let me say welcome to Mr. McIntyre back with us this morning. MIA last week, right?
Yes, I had,
Missing in action. How are you doing this morning, sir?
Is it really missing action?
Well,
or missing the action?
Missing the action, I would say. You sort of missed the action last week. We had an interesting morning last week.
Yeah.
For some reason, it was interesting.
Right. So good morning to you, GT. Again, my wonderful co-host.
Yes, thank you.
And a pleasant good morning to the family of the GBN. I want to, really shout out our fans outside there, our followers, our viewers, our listeners. You are the reason why we do this. We find the energy and the desire to do this every Monday.
Yes.
I said we do this for people like you, and the only support we requested of you so far is that you give an expression of thank you.
Yep.
And that we can show that the information that we're giving, that it is taking some level of effect. And we also want, when you hear it, you pass it on, because some people, their comments have been, in general, that the timing of the program, we are not really reaching the audience. We are technically, in some cases, preaching to the converted, which I really don't believe. But I think GBN has the ability for people to review the program.
Yes, you could always go back and review the program from time to time.
Yes.
It's always online. So
that's correct.
You could do so.
And in addition, I think GBN also cuts aspect of it when it's very current and they think that they need to make a news item. They do that. So again, once again, thank you all very much. Those of you who have been raising the issues that we can highlight, I appreciate it, and continue to do that as we go with the eyes on the issues across country.
Yes.
We want to be able to report them and to see changes. And some of them, GT, in our review, when you start that, we're going to speak about some of the positive we're seeing and some of the regrets we're having for things not done or things not well done.
Not well done.
Yes.
The week last week has been an interesting one. They had lots happening. We will chime into that shortly.
Yeah.
My contribution, I had someone actually call in last week in relation to that. We spoke about the week before last when we were on. We spoke about the drains have been covered and so forth. We thought that was a positive.
Mm-hmm.
And I had someone calling sometime last week and referring to him, man, the culverts are getting broken.
Yes.
Is it because of the wrong? Who to be blamed for that? Are we going to blame the engineering factor for that?
That's the first blame.
The engineering?
Yes.
The weight factor of truck.
Second blame. I agree with you. Go on. Keep
the
going.
weight was put on, wasn't there the proper testing done before these things are placed and so forth?
Yes.
Or they thought it was just pedestrian passing only, stuff like that?
Yes.
I don't know. What do you
And then you didn't go to the last one. The supervisory enforcement check for quality and so forth.
Yes.
That aspect. When you award a contract, you're supposed to do a follow-up. And in engineering, there's something called quality. And in quality, especially for concrete, tin set and all these things, there is
the testing for the PSI strength and so forth. Yes.
The testing as to what is appropriate. It has to do with the weight factor and the expected level of volume of traffic and weight you are expecting that this thing has to undergo. In addition to that, when concrete work is put down, there's also a period of proper setting.
Yeah.
If you allow the weight to go onto it too quickly, that can deteriorate the integrity of what you put down. So it has to go back to the maker, those who are awarding the contracts, and then it goes back eventually to the implementers, those who are actually supposed to be doing the job.
Yeah.
But what we've seen happening, I've seen it personally, contracts have been awarded, people do work and they leave, they get the checks. Sometimes people even get the checks before the job has been done.
And care less about
and care less of toward the quality. We have to go past that. I did see on one of the programs, it is high time that we see people being charged, they have been penalized and made public example for not giving the quality of work and service that Grenada requires. We are seeing and we have seen our resources go down too many times, inappropriately, irrelevant to some of the issues. And the people who are spending, and I say our dollars, state monies, they are not held accountable. We need to be able to see that those enforcement measures across country, when people do shady or shoddy work or otherwise, they should be brought to the fore, and if it means making them a public example so that we get quality, we should not stop. The issue here, life is at the end of the stick at stake.
Yes.
And when people do not do the quality of work that is required, a life is threatened. You drive over one of those culverts or you walk over it and it goes down. That in itself, we've seen a number of persons. I saw one time a tourist kicked or went into something in the city and got injured. You know how impacting that could be negatively for our tourism fragile industry?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it is.
Yes, yes.
And so we have to be mindful of all of that. And apart from the economics that come out of it but for tourists and pedestrians. And
you don't want the tourists say they don't want to come to Grenada again.
They don't want to.
I walked on a culvert and I fell in, and the bad publicity that would spread for us as a small nation is not good.
But it's not. If it was just for the publicity, maybe we might say that we can do with the few dollars, but if we can guarantee our health and safety, that is even more than the dollars and cents. Because I've seen people kicked on certain things in the city, walked in and dropped into certain holes. And I remember one time a woman struck some and she fell face down. And she was injured. And there was someone again who got their back injured. And there are persons again with physical limitation or disability as they move around, or walkways or sidewalks or streets. They're sometimes not very conducive to people who are physically challenged. The blind, the people who have mobility issues with wheelchairs and walkers and all of that. We have to become most sensitive about this, and we have to guarantee the quality of work, and people who do not deliver them, they must be made to pay for it.
You know, in Grenada and maybe other small Caribbean countries, the authorities may get away with this,
Yeah.
To a point. You know, in other bigger countries, lawsuits are pending.
Oh, big lawsuits.
You understand, for people getting themselves injured for things like that.
We know of even Grenadians who benefited from that. They got injured in the United States, UK, or someplace, or Canada, and they're back in Grenada living off what they got because the roadworks and other people.
A simple slip.
Oh yeah,
going into a particular building and you slip and you
don't take chances.
Don't take a chance. And I think the authorities here have been getting away with that for years.
Yes.
And if someone decides they want to challenge the authorities for those reasons, then we can see a lot of lawsuits pending here in Grenada for that.
Yeah.
But it goes back to the same issue of the what we saw in terms of those coverings getting broken and so forth.
Yeah.
Is it because of the qualification factor of who does the engineering? Did that kind of thought go into? Okay, a lot of people say, I'm a mason, man, I can do this.
I don't think a lot.
The quality of the individual doing the work, sometimes, and there are a lot of folks who may have gotten the job. Maybe the individuals who's in charge of the construction company, let's give them the benefit. They may have the necessary qualification.
Yes.
But sometimes it passes it on to the regular individuals who work with them.
I was about to say
that person may be good. So he's thinking, well, Mr. McIntyre, I can do the work. He's been working with me for a while, but we're doing 50 pieces of that.
Yeah.
Then the more material you use, sometimes the diminishes the quality.
Of course.
You understand?
Of course.
And it could be just that. I mean, I'm just giving it the benefit of the doubt. That particular one didn't get that amount of cement, or didn't get that amount of steel, or didn't get whatever that it should have. All the little shortcuts could always trip in there.
Yeah.
And not remembering that maybe we should not have used that one for whatever reason. And we see what happens.
Yeah. So there's an aspect called subcontracting as well.
Yes.
So I also want to add that Grenadians are not short of qualifications in a lot of ways.
I know. I agree with that.
There is the NVQs and there's the CVQs and there's a lot of the vocational qualifications that people attain and so forth. But I think it boils down a lot to the people who are awarded those contracts, and then the greed and other things to make as much from it, and so they shaft on. And we're going to be speaking about resilience and resistance when it comes to natural hazards preparation. As we go into hurricane season, we're going to speak about that.
Yes.
And we're also going to speak about how people they really cheat on others in the housing and so forth, how they build houses and what they do. So similar, you find these things happening in constructions and other work that people do. There's what you call the reinforcement bars, the rebars, or the steel, the strength that is supposed to be applicable to certain PSI for concrete and so on, and certain structures, and the expand to which you need to have columns and pillars, etc. And some people cheat on those. The thickness of the concrete, the thickness of the asphalt and all those, rather than giving a 4-inch, sometimes they give you a 3.5, all of that.
And that extra inch, that other half inch or whatever makes a lot of difference.
Make quite a lot of difference. And so all of these things, I must say though, that there's good signs that those enforcement measures are happening. I want to also commend the National Training Agency, Intyre. They are coming to the fore, and they're ensuring that certifications and qualifications and the people who are supposed to be qualified, they're there. And we're hoping that we can see more of that, and we're hoping that the whole aspect of health and safety and all these issues, there will be an enforcement well, there is a mechanism, I am sure, but there should be a task force that is assigned specifically to go to business places, work sites, etc., to ensure that there's compliance with the regulations. Grenada and I spoke at the how you call it, the one of those institutions last week in terms of, I think it's the Grenada Industrial Grenada GCIB or something like that. Anyway, but that's the company that did Grenada Industrial Development Corporation.
Okay, GIDCI, yes.
Right. I did speak there, and I did say to them at that opening last week, Monday, that Grenada is not short of instruments, policies, regulations, but the enforcement is a challenge. They were looking at a comprehensive disaster management plan and policy and all that, and I commended them for doing that. And Grenada is really not short of qualifications and instruments, but our weakness is our inability to enforce them. We need to see more enforcement mechanism across country for a lot of things, including law enforcement.
Yes.
Generally, and that is one of the challenges that we have. I have to commend the small steps that I'm seeing in terms of where we are going in ensuring that there's compliance and that people do what they're supposed to do. What I'm intending and I'm looking forward to hear in a not too distant future who will become the example, and the persons who are going to be punished or penalized for not doing the things that they are being paid to do and required to do.
I certainly do agree with you on that point, because we see the deterioration been going on for a long time.
Yes.
And enforcement has been the part of it that just seems to have never been driven a whole lot.
Yes.
You understand? Something happens and we just let it go fly by for whatever reason.
Yes.
And then nobody's been penalized for anything that they've been doing.
So
understand?
When I will look, and we spoke about that on a program, if you are putting a reinforcement wall, why would you be putting 6 and 8 inch wall against a certain amount of movement of land or mass of soil that you're expecting in a particular place?
Wouldn't be able to sustain the pressure.
It would not. We think about putting solid walls and so on and having this massive pad at the bottom and you go small at the top. That would be able to retain a bit more.
Yeah.
You look at that wall that is precariously perched in Grandlands, that's just after, before you get to the Coffee Bow Hill.
Yes.
That wall that is pulling apart. And those retaining walls that the people built over the years, and they're leaning towards the road. You look at that wall in Wester Hall before you get to the Wester Hall estate. That wall that is leaning towards you can see the weight of the soil towards it. And limited or no enforcement in terms of steel going through those things. Now, who's really doing those kinds of inspections?
I mean, you're thinking about the cost that would refer to the homeowner or the landowner for say who pay to have these things done at tremendous cost sometimes.
Absolutely.
And then you get these shabby work that causes problem. So, Mac, we have a caller. I know it's kind of a bit early in the day, but I guess see this caller been calling in, and I'm not sure if they have a positive contribution towards the program. Yes. Caller, good morning. Let's hear from you.
Good morning to you, GT, and how are you today?
Not too bad.
And
go ahead,
good
please.
morning to Marketer. So you expect me to wait until you get down to the half hour? No, I can't
really.
Wait because
let's hear from you quickly, please. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm listening to your engineer, and you know what I'm hearing from some people? What is he playing? Is he an engineer? So I qualify you as an engineer, so you need to get a group of architects and draftsmen and set an office somewhere. You are that good. Every single thing you said there is right and proper. But we have what you call, let me put it in my spin, because so much to see. Leadership and accountability. In the absence of leadership and accountability, those things happen. Wall 8 inches thick on the roadside to take tons of dust is impossible. Walls 4 inch thick to take tons of weight on a bridge, trust me, it's impractical. So we need to be up in those games, and I'm saying, I don't want to take too much of your time because so much things I will say I can't say, but I'm saying keep up the good work. And I'm saying to you, and be very honest, get a group of people and get into that architecture field. You are a qualified engineer, and if they listen to the government and other people listen to you, will not go wrong. because what you're saying is true, right, and proper, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Mr. McIntyre, they want to push into a new profession there.
Yeah. I mean, so many different things. But yeah, I really applaud the caller. He just made the morning in terms of showing appreciation for what we should do. I think we're not trying to blow our trumpets or be show off in anything. But I think we're raising the issues that are really pertinent. And if anyone wants to challenge, the authenticity of what we're saying, you can do that, just like the caller has said. But we need people to be able to speak out on the issue and to be frank and fearless about what is wrong and what should be done differently, what should be done right. And I'm one of those. I will not be afraid. I will not keep my mouth in a pocket if it's not happening I'm not looking for my own benefit. But I'm looking for Grenada, looking for us, the average person on the street, the women with the children who walking around and otherwise, they expose the vulnerable people. We cannot continue to do shady or shoddy work and get away with it.
Right.
And
it goes to the expense of the country as a whole.
I think we've seen our resources go down the drain too often.
Yeah, it's been. Let's take our final caller within this segment, then we take a break after this caller. I'll take a break. Caller, good morning, you're welcome.
Well, I do thank you, Mr. Telesford. Good morning to Mr. McIntyre. I support the last caller similarly. I must indeed say that I have to agree with you on your last utterances, quality and standards. But listen to my concern. You said that here we have tested and proven skills. In addition, we have all the instruments. Yet, Mr. McIntyre, I'm not blaming you, be careful. I'm just saying it as you said it. Yet, we cannot produce high quality and standard work. Pay attention to this. You have the tools, you have the brains and the qualification. In other words, the technical capacity, the academic capacity, and the instrumentation to back it up. Yet we cannot produce high standard work. What does that tell us? You know what that spells, Mr. McIntyre? No, this is not your fault, of course. It spells incompetence and untrustworthiness in the management and supervision. This is one of the major deficiencies of our country. And you know where that comes from? Poor policies from the administrative level, and because of corruption and otherwise. These are the things that we have to work on. In other words, the country has been built on such a poor shifting sand, poor level quality shifting sand. And the officials who are expected to hold these standards high refuse to do it. That is why the defects of our country are systemic. That is why, Mr. McIntyre, to change that, you have to support me in refounding the country, a new constitution, so that people do things as established by the constitution and not by the whims and fancies of the demagogues that put themselves into position and do nothing to assist the advancement of the country. But I'm listening. Go ahead, will you? Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Have a good morning yourself.
Thank you very
so,
much.
Mac, we need to take a break. When we come back, we continue our conversation. Let's take a break, folks, and of course, you could join us again when we return. Stay with us.
I want to control your anger. There's a way to feel better. That's one thing to remember. No matter where you are, you can be a star. Stop and take a deep breath and relax yourself. Take another deep breath and relax it. Eliminate violence.
Coming up, Barbados is heating up with enhanced attractions and hotel properties. World Cup cricket's touching down in the Caribbean. And Trinidad and Tobago is ready in the food department. A year's worth of beaches and more. We're talking about the Antigua and Barbuda experience. The rising stars of the track and the pool. Caribbean Village cricket. There's endless action on and off the field. It's all next on this station.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. Good morning to those of you via social media platforms. I know I haven't shouted you out for the morning. Those of you via the Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning and welcome back. Mr. Mac, welcome back once again. You know, something we haven't chimed in on. I know folks may have passed in the Grandlands area and saw the Common Park. You know, there's been that metal rail that's been there for years. And you can't miss it if someone knows you're coming in and out, the noise that it makes.
But it's of disadvantage when it did
at the time. It did at the time, and that's been replaced.
Yeah, so like we do every time we come on, we find a reason to commend who's responsible for good initiatives and so forth. And that was one of those. They put concrete slabs to the entrance into the Common Park. And I think Common Park has taken on almost a new dimension in terms of its usage. Yeah. I think more people are using the Common Park now. And there are lots of activities occurring there. And so the safety factor has to be looked into more carefully in terms of what activities are undertaken and what mechanisms are in place for safety, including the beach space, that you have more people and the access to lifeguards and other people's security that would be in the area. That's one of the things. And as I look at the entrance where they put the concrete slabs now, they do have a few holes that water can go through and get down to the bottom. But the drains need to be cleared a bit more. Yes. And as we move into the rainy season from the dry season, that is something we're going to be speaking about maybe in our next program. But the drains across country need to be fixed up, including the Montrouge area that is so prone to flooding. But we did speak about this, the flare and the skirting on entrances. And I thought that despite the slab being put on that entrance, they should have expanded a bit to the left and right a bit more. So that vehicles getting out to the left or right, they do have more maneuvering space on that. It seems as though it just occupied just the mere traffic space. And you need a bit more on that to give easier access, safer access to entrances and exit. It is one of the things that in our construction and engineering designs that we need to spend more time on, especially in our road spaces. The gaps, the contractors tend to believe that we are being paid for a certain amount of concrete work in certain places to do gaps, and they do just the mere width of the road.
Or they do what they were told to do, and that's basically.
So they need to go back and renegotiate with the people who are awarding them the contracts to say we need to expand on those gaps a bit more. We need to do the flares and those so that there's easier access, easier maneuvering, and more safety for road users. And that is one of the slight drawback that I've seen on the common entrance, but congratulations on the innovation and improvement.
All right. Mr. Mack, we've been also noticing, of course, I'm seeing someone trying to call. I'm not sure if they want to chime in on our conversation. Let me just entertain this call and then we go back in our conversation. Caller, good morning, you're welcome.
Good morning, Mr. I'm GT and Mr. McIntyre. I called a few weeks ago, drawing your attention to the mahogany trees in Tantine that's in front of the Anglican High School. You know if any attention was paid to it? And secondly, on the Shemen River, that culvert on Calvin West Boundary, I think some sort of reflectors or some sort of precautionary measures be put there, because at nights it's very difficult when you're driving there, because the amount of speed guys use travel on that road and the bright lights sometimes make it difficult to know where the edge of where the bridge is. So I think some sort of attention should be to that, especially at nights. And the last one, the Springs Calvini Main Road at the Paddock Junction. I know there used to be a stop line for vehicles coming from Calvini, so that vehicles entering Belmont can make the right turn. But I noticed quite a while now that line is out. And people coming from Springs, they just drive right across, endangering a person attempting to go to Belmont. So can you look at those things for me, please? Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much for your input this morning.
That caller has made some very relevant inputs. Spot on. It's one of the areas that I observe. Definitely traffic, I'll probably liaise with them on that. That's something that they need to do, the markings. And in some cases, mirrors could also become an enhancement to the safety measure for those areas. And that again. In addition to that, the cliff, Woburn, and so on, I think when that work is finished on that slip of road between the Woodlands Junction and the cliff, I think that aspect between coming from Monjalu, going over to Marion and Calavini and St. George, the markings there need to be a bit different.
Yes.
Maybe they can consider, as we said, one of those tire roundabout that they did, because sometimes it is difficult to figure out which is the major, which is the minor. Where do you give way to? The signs and the markings in that area need to be enhanced a bit. So it is two things I'm hoping that somebody from the traffic department, if you're listening, you need to pay some attention to that, or you can make it easier for road users. They've done some enhancement, some markings, I think sometime last year. As you come from Monjalo area, you're coming from the Calavini area, they did give some markings, and I think there is also a pedestrian cross in that area.
Yes.
But they need to be remarked. Again, there's so many things we can speak about, the markings of pedestrian crossings and the appropriate traffic paint on them for reflections.
Sometimes you're not sure who's to give way to traffic as well. You understand? And things that people are doing it on their own judgment, which could be fatal at times.
We need to be on that a bit more. And finally, the point which the column made in terms of reflectors, I did make an appeal for corporate Grenada. If you wish to contribute, you can speak to me directly. The Grand Tang area and a few areas across Grenada where the road edges, the government and state mechanism can't fix every place at the same time. We understand that resources may not be available. But there are some things that we can do, like the mirrors and so, to enhance the safety on roads. But those cat eyes, as we call them, those reflector lights, you can put them on edge of bridges, and you can put them on strips of road where a vehicle can veer off very easy. So when lights spot on these things, you can understand where the width of the road stop, where there is a risk area. I think that's something we can do.
It certainly help drivers and
it will help drivers
a whole
quite a bit. So if anybody hearing us, especially within the diaspora, and know of these things, then some things could be sent so that we can install them. I don't mind through our foundation, Ashley McIntyre Safety Foundation for Roads. We would want to be able to help establish those in areas where we know the risks do arise. And going forward, for roads in terms of safety, we did speak of the corrugated edges on our roads that sometimes we designate as highway and otherwise. We need to be able to have the corrugated edges for people. Grenada has become so diverse. Activities have gone on into very late. And sometimes people have activities where they become tired or otherwise, and they can veer off the exact road space. So when people do that, they need to know when they're getting off the road, because some of the road spaces and the walkways are on the same level. So if we do the corrugated edges, it will help drivers as they go along, if they happen to not be on the main road section, that they're getting off into the pedestrian ways, etc. These are some measures. So I really thank.
We do have a caller. I know we're not going to be ready for the calls yet. We're going to take one for this segment, the final one for this segment. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning, GT, and morning to Mr. McIntyre. I'm just calling because I'm a resident of Montrouge, and I like to see good things in Montrouge. From the first sight of that entrance to that Cameroon Park that you all talk about, when I see it, I feel shame and embarrassed, because who putting it down supposed to have some sight and excite and even have some vision or what? Because they said they're going to improve Cameroon Park. So right there, you should make that entrance one time. Right now, what I see is they need to put one more slab, push the other slabs right down a little bit, and add one more slab. If a vehicle is going in just there or coming according to what you do, the back wheel and the front wheel will just go over. And then you have to think that pedestrian going to also use that while vehicle is going in there. And because they put a slab, but the metal rail was even better than how they have the slab now. Your chances that somebody might slip and fall, but the metal rail was be there because of the first time when the Canadian do Cameroon Park, because of the number of cows in Montrouge. They was going in and eat the plants, and the cows free to walk on that. So that's why that was there. Secondly, the drain. Right now, if people are in charge, this is why I say in the Public Works Department need to come back. Now this Minister of Infrastructure, they have no tools, no wheelbarrow, nothing. Urgent attention need to move to Montrouge drain now before the rain comes. From Cameroon Park entrance right down to the Trade Center, and the both sides, it's completely dry now, and there's a lot of debris in it. You need urgent attention before the rain comes, so you have that part of the drain is cleaned. Now, This new Olympic building, I'm ashamed about it. There's a wrong thing over there. One is like a flame and the other one is, I don't know what it is. But that is covering the two main doors for going inside it. I don't know who are the people that built it, but what they did, they carved the hardboard, the plywood, to get it to wrong. And they just paint it. Since last year watching the rain, I had to go up and I went and shelter. That thing is rotten, and all the water now is falling down there. And if you look right to the bottom of the glass doors, and then you see the plane trim, so the moisture is getting that, they're going to spoil it. Then, secondly, the bus stop. When you're going up on Wall Street, when you're going to town, they need to demolish that. We're not doing anything right. We're leaving it there for long. The bus stop is not in the right position. The bus stop is, the shed is at the wrong end. And that is making the buses and things stopping in the road because they want to be right with the passengers. There's a lot of things you need people talking about. Even Mr. McIntyre raising the issue. Look at the thing on the car and there's nothing happening to it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your input this morning and relevant points.
GT, our program is really loaded with very, very valuable contributions today. I'm really happy.
We've been kind of dominated by the calls because I'm seeing more calls coming, but we will put a pause in it for a minute.
On that one, and we go to the next segment.
So, caller who's calling now, we're going to entertain the call in our next segment. So, Mike, we want to move on because, we always talk about, our program helps a whole lot in terms of, the intervention in terms of disasters and so forth on this island. How and how things that we can do to prevent and some way mitigate for some reason or the other, how we mitigate. There's always those brewing concerns that we have always, and we've seen lately what's going on in terms of the violence and so forth that is showing up. What's your take on what's going on there?
Yeah, there are two angles from that end that we wish to chime in on, and thank you very much. We like to chime in on the very current issues as they happen, because basically we need to keep our eyes on the issues as they occur. And regrettably, we've had the loss of life of persons. Allegedly by gun violence.
Yes.
And before I say anything further, I just wish to state to everyone that crime is not out of control in Grenada.
Yeah.
With due respect to our policymakers, our law enforcement that have been doing a fantastic job with limited resources, we do not want to create the wrong image for ourselves and for those who would like to visit Grenada. Crime and violence is really not out of control, but it could be spiraling to that level. And this is why we have to keep our eyes and our ears and our instrument on the issues so that they do not go beyond the point where they cannot be controlled. There are a few issues that have created concerns. One of it is the increase allegedly in gun violence.
Yes.
And we know that there's an amnesty that has been legislated to happen.
And it's in effect right now?
It is in effect, and we're hoping that there will be a report on that from law enforcement, and the mechanism would be maybe Ministry of National Security will be giving us a feedback maybe every week, 2 weeks, as to what's happening with that, so that Grenadians can understand where we are in terms of dealing with the issues of gun violence. But as it happened, unfortunately, we had seemingly 2 fatalities within an 8-day period. One of those was kind of really close to me. I think I was the last person who interacted with that young gentleman, brave boy, just 10 minutes before he was shot. We had a conversation. He came, he embraced me, and he was expressing, condolence and sympathy for the loss of my son, because they moved out, they were in the new charter.
Okay.
And as he embraced me, he held on to me really tight, and he said, "Yeah, Mr. Mark, it's really nice to see you." And I said, "Listen, young man, I realized, situations and people are pushing in a particular direction. Mm-hmm. I need to be careful." And he said, "Oh, Mr. Mark, I'm staying away from these things, and so I don't want to be a part of this. I chill out and I cool out about it. And that was his thing of wanting to be different. That was his last word to me. And he embraced me. He went into the bar. He had a couple of drinks. They ate a couple of slices of pizzas, and so on. He moved out. And 10 minutes after he left from where we were having the conversation, I heard about that incident, and unfortunately, that was his last moment. He lost his life. And then we've had similarly another one in a couple of days after. And so I am saying this to say that there's a conversation that people go, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Yeah. And if you live by the guns, you die by the guns. Those are some of the statements that you'd hear. And whatever the young man's past may have been, it is a lesson and something that family, people, parents and children, you should take note of this. And also for young persons, you want to find your associations and find whether or not you take the reckoning that your parents give you. Every parent wants the child to be a good child and want to be part of your children. And it's good to be able to give those kind of a nurturing and that good foundation for children as they grow up. And unfortunately, in some instances, some children, they move away from the presence and goodness and the monitoring, admonishing that they should get and have gotten from their parents, and they choose their own way. And what I've seen happen in the past, I have to be addressing, I think, is the PBC PTA tomorrow on some of these issues as well. And it is a situation where people get involved in certain situations that are wrong. Yeah. It's unacceptable, inappropriate for societies. And there are times when they decide to become different. It may be just the moment too late. The young people and other persons who have gotten themselves in illegal substances, trading and smoking, etc. And they find that, and some people even in terms of robbery with violence and theft and all of that, for some time in their life they may decide, they come to a reckoning and decide that they want to make a change. But because you've gotten so deep, people sometimes don't learn to trust you otherwise.
That bit of a stigma
that stigma stays with you, and finding your way back into society sometimes becomes a challenge.
Yes.
So even as we understood that young man was not tending to be violent on this occasion, maybe, as I said, it's an open investigation just as well, but maybe, as it was said unofficially, his intent was to put peace.
Yeah.
But understanding who he may have been could have led to certain things. And this is the disadvantage when associations and habits are cultured that are not acceptable in our society, as we call a Christian nation, that sometimes you suffer the consequences later on. It's unfortunate, but these things do happen. So my admonishing to parents, ensure that you stick to good parenting duties. Do not get weary of trying to instill good habits into your children so that later on they can grow into becoming the kinds of citizens that we would want in the beautiful Grenada that we have. And as I said, that crime and violence is not out of control, but there are a few elements and there are a few pockets in Grenada that need to be controlled. And my intervention still is we are too reactive to situations. And what we need to see, Prime Minister did say, in terms of curbing crime and violence, that we need all hands on deck. And my point is the same thing. We need civil society, we need the religious organizations, we need the clubs and community structures to be involved in ensuring that we build and grow children and families differently so that the stigma of the wrong things and the consequences of the inappropriate activities, they will not be so strong. But it has to be from the foundation. It has to be from the root. It has to be from the family. So I insist on going back to our family's values and building what you would want. There would be the odd times when children would go away from what you teach them, but it would be minimized if we insist and we are consistent in driving the right things home at all times. And if we use the airwaves, the media houses, and the public forum to cultivate more positive opportunities, conversations, associations, we would be able to see that. And as we speak, the things that seemingly are unacceptable, they give a sign or they give an appearance of being unsafe or unsightly or otherwise. We need to step on them before they spiral out of control. And there are a few indicators in our country that can show you that Grenada can become similar to what's happening in other territories, larger than ours, sometimes smaller than ours, but the crime situation is higher than ours. So we need to take that cue and be a lot more proactive. Find the nests and break them before they build too strong. And find the indicators, deal with them, address them covertly and overtly. And as I said, the cops are doing what they have to do. I do not know what their strategies are. But we need to be able to see a lot more proactive means from top right down.
All right.
Everyone on deck, Tutmun Bagay, everyone should take responsibility for ensuring that Grenada do not become worse than it is right now.
Where does law enforcement fit into this? How strong of a concern are you for law enforcement fitting into the situation that we are experiencing? As you said, there's not a problem with crime in Grenada to a magnitude.
Yes.
But we still need law enforcement fitting into this in a more proactive way than on a reactive way, as you mentioned a while ago. How does law enforcement?
I have to again register my commendation for the men and women in uniform who've been doing human service over the years with limited resources, inappropriate, insufficient, inhumane, and less humane conditions, facilities that they happen to be operating. And I see this with no sense of anything else, because I understand the condition under which law enforcement in many cases had to have been functioning. Yes. I've seen the amenities, the instruments that law enforcement have been exposed to, the level of technology that they should have been exposed to ensure that crime and other things, and they have been making magic with what they've had. Yeah. And so we wish that the state mechanism must be able to show the appreciation and allow and give the kinds of resources that is required to give the incentive and the encouragement to those who are required to go and that's what law enforcement is required most of the time. When you are asleep, that's what law enforcement people are there to keep you safe, to ensure that you can. When a situation is dangerous or otherwise, law enforcement is expected to go in when no other person could.
Yes.
They're expected to put their lives, their family, and everything at risk to ensure others are safe. It means that they should be at the very high end in terms of prioritizing their own well-being, the instrument and equipment that they have. Albeit, there are the few who do not do us justice, do not represent the state apparatus very well, but they are again in the minority. So the fundamental principles of law enforcement happens in Grenada.
Yeah.
They work with what the resources they have. But my personal contribution to that is that they must be shown that level of importance, respect by members of our societies, especially at the levels at community levels when they are there to deliver on the enforcement mechanism and the community initiative. They do not get the kind of a respect and the kind of a support that they should. And when it goes up the chain, in terms of being able to provide the enabling environment, you find that there are gross limitations in that happening. And so that can impact on the effectiveness of law enforcement in a lot of ways. If you do not have a comfortable place to sleep, imagine that a law enforcement officer goes in to the bed to sleep, and you have to take black plastic bag and plug holes because the water is coming on your bed. That is not a situation that gives you the encouragement to perform.
Breaks your moral a bit.
It breaks your moral. And you're working in an environment and you're sitting there at the charge room, and when the rain falls, the place flooded or the water comes in on you. And you look around at the painting and so on. There is no curb appeal. There's no real attraction to the facility from which you operate. The paint is peeling off, the vehicles are bounced and then the lights are broken and everything else. The glass, you have to pull them up with your hands, even if they are supposed to be mechanically wound up, etc. Cracked windscreen and otherwise. And so that enabling environment, that thing that gives you a sense of pride from the environment which you function, has a lot to do sometimes with the enforcement or the kind of a zeal and desire that law enforcement would go forward with. If you're going into an environment where you know you have a proper place, you have your air-conditioned atmosphere, you have modern equipment and so forth, your comrades around you, they're all rejuvenated, they're excited, enthusiastic about doing the function, and they know that their comrade do have their back.
Yes.
And they have the support of the leadership at all levels. That gives you the encouragement to just go on to do what you're supposed to do. So again, I want to just register my appreciation for law enforcement and to encourage them to keep doing what you're doing and still try to do your best. But they would need corporate Grenada. They would need every citizen to be a law enforcer, not just in uniform. But if you see issues, you understand the issues. You need not to condone them, but you need to report them. Find a way of speaking to somebody who would have your confidence in terms of addressing the issue as they come forward. So again, the things that are happening that we see, it takes all of us because the people who have the guns and the drugs and other things, they wouldn't expose them to the law enforcers when they see them.
So true.
They would move around average citizens whom they think will not speak about it. But we must become stakeholders. We must become shareholders in our Grenada. Our patrimony is this piece of rock that we are on. And so we have to find ourselves as shareholders, and shareholders will seek interest in their investment. Grenada is our investment, and every one of us must speak out against crime and violence, and the people that we know who would do them and can do them, they should be dealt with and they should be reported.
All right. Of course, certainly appreciate those comments there, Mr. Mack. But we drew for a break. Let's take it. We come back. It's just around 13 or 12, say about 12 minutes left on today's program.
Yeah, but we good.
We good.
Yeah, we're very good.
The next segment, we will invite your calls. Even though we'll continue the discussion, we will invite your calls from our listeners and viewers this morning. Feel free to do so when we come back in the next segment. Stay with it, folks. We will be right back.
Everybody get your taste buds ready. Swiss flavor, taste the better quality.
Make your taste buds smile with the tantalizing flavors of Swiss regular or spicy ketchup.
Better because it's Swiss. Better because it's Swiss.
Moms deserves everything. Win a $300 groceries voucher, dinner for two, plus lots of sponsor prizes. This Mother's Day, 9 lucky moms will have a chance to win lots of prizes on K105 FM and Hot 98 FM 2 times per shift from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. When you hear this soundbite, call 435-2041 and say Mom deserves everything to qualify. You can only qualify once for the entire promotion. All names going to a pool for the grand draw on Thursday, 9th May at 4:45 p.m. Moms Deserves Everything is sponsored by Coconut Beach Creole Restaurant, Smart Buy Supermarket, Rick's Cafe, Chanel Salon and Spa, Umbrella Beach Bar, Venery Cosmetics, and Frangipani Salon and Spa. Promotion starts Thursday, the 2nd May.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. And the viewers have been, of course, watching us for a wee bit.
Yes.
We didn't get that break from the TV side of things, but that wasn't a problem. Anyway, folks, let's, of course, we do have a caller coming in, Mr. Mack. This individual been calling for a wee bit. Let's see what they has to contribute towards today's program. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, GT, and good morning, Mr. McIntyre. How are you both?
Good.
Doing good, sir.
Right. Let me applaud for the style of the program this morning. And it is always good to put things in context. Unfortunately, we have not been doing that for quite some time in this nation. However, look, for example, Cameroon Park, some of the comments that has been made today and whatever improvement is being done on it. Congrats. But we must all look also at the turmoil that Cameroon Park and the issue of Cameroon Park went through in recent years till it reached that point. The question is, as a people, as a nation, why progress or some form of progress had to be preceded by turmoil? So there's some questions to be asked and some issues to address before we can get what we should do, when we should do it, how it should be done, and to enjoy the product. Okay, so let's leave that one day, for example. Now let's look at another issue. Now, in order for you or any individual to be progressive, what you call progressive, you first have to look at one or two or more factors. One, the individual. Two, the asset that they have. And the three, where they are at that point in time. So then you'll be able to evaluate the progress, if ever, or regress, if ever, of that individual at that point in time. No. Let's take that concept and put it in the nation. Let's look at the nation as a family or individual in the global market. And let's look at Grenada and the Grenadian people, the asset, the economic potential, the human capital, and what have been done or what have been doing or what is taking place according to the behavior of that group or family of people. Mr. McIntyre, GT, it would be prudent of us to take a snapshot of the last 17, 18 years of Grenada that precede the natural disaster Ivan, and try to see what we have done with what we have given and what we have in order to bring to date some resemblance of good socio-economic progress. In so doing, we'll have to ask ourselves some questions. And I hope and pray, if these questions are answered, to which I've just made mention of, that we will find our direction. And having your direction, you know, be able to have a sense of purpose. Have a great day. I would like to elaborate on these things and these factors, because I've seen enough. And it's really painful. But this program is not really for that. So I'm looking at something, what I would refer to as a symposium or exposure or whatever you want to call it, by the intellectuals of this nation, the academias, the professionals, where we can sit together and talk about the future of this nation and going forward for us in a global market. Thank you very much, sir. Have a great one.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. I certainly do appreciate it. Caller, that made a whole lot of sense in terms of what you've been saying.
Of course.
You know.
So not a lot of comment I want to make on that in the interest of time as well. There's another segment that we wanted to touch on, apart from the crime and violence, and we spoke about the recent occurrences. But we are in the dry season, and one of the things we wanted to speak about or to implore people about fire safety.
Yes.
And the challenge to the fire appliances that we have, suppressing appliances, even by the RGPF. We need more persons at community levels, I did mention it, to take responsibility to understand fire controlling mechanism and how fires are being ignited. We need more, not just the fire department, but individuals who are learned, who would go through and encourage people what they should do, because fire will occur whether you want them or not. The kind of a heat we are experiencing, yes, it do create some level of that. So there are 3 points I want to make on that fire safety issues. One is access on our roadways, etc., for the fire appliances to come through. We have to, again, to become more rigorous in cleaning our streets and our roads of derelicts. We've done some work on that, and not just derelicts, but the roadside garages and so forth. I mean, I was going over the hills, and I saw a couple of days ago a vehicle is up on the roadside on 4 blocks. On 4 blocks, right? It means that it is being walked on the roadside, just about 20 feet from a corner.
I think I know what you're speaking about.
That is something. I mean, do law enforcement actually pass that street and see these things? We ask ourselves the question. The other thing is that the fire appliances. I listened to the fire, one of them heading into the south of the island, and the siren is a mere whisper. You cannot actually hear the sirens from the horns on the truck I heard was even louder than the siren. And I was wondering, do they have a deficiency, or should they create louder sirens that you can hear them from further on? Because these trucks are big. And the other aspect of it, should they have forerunners, smaller appliances that would go ahead as forerunners with an escort that would create easier traffic access and would get to points where the fires can be controlled much quicker. I remember one time the RGPF fire department had like a Land Rover, a smaller, that they would move, they get attached, it serves as a forerunner, it goes ahead, sets up, and as a bigger plant, make its way and so forth. I think these are some things that should be looked into across country. I know there has been some resource expended towards getting some new appliances. But as we look at decentralizing the control mechanism across country, I wonder sometimes how we do prioritize. I look at the eastern side of the island. So St. David's is part of the Eastern Division, so fire trucks from Grenville have to come towards St. David's,
yes,
and sometimes St. George. And I note carefully that housing for fire tenders were built in the St. David's police station. And that was built, I'm sure it's over 2 years. And I was wondering whether or not a truck should have been bought before the thing was built, or whether when it's been built, a truck should have been placed in it.
Yeah.
And
so there's still no truck in it as yet?
Somebody could correct us on that. I don't think there is.
I'm not sure. I haven't paid attention to it. But I do have the structure been built. That
had been built for a while. I think I drove down there recently. Last week I didn't see one. So if one came over the weekend, somebody could tell us. Yeah. But sometimes you wonder is how we decentralize and how the prioritizing takes place as to whether or not the tenders could be there and they can suppress fires in the absence of having a shelter.
Yeah.
You can build a shelter. As a matter of fact, if you have the tender, in my opinion, before, it will urge you to build the shelter much quicker.
For it. So
but you build the shelter,
and you don't have the mechanism.
You don't have the mechanism to do that, to put on it, and sometimes it becomes usable for other purposes.
Yeah.
And so we wonder whether or not, across country, we should think about decentralizing and make corporate Grenada contribute more to that. Places that have industrial complexes, you have a number of persons within a particular vicinity. Apart from the hydrants that are there, now they have limited access because of valve regulations and so forth. Whether or not we should have community pumps and other things set up that community people are trained to utilize so that we can minimize the loss because of fires, particularly around this time of year.
Thinking about that, because how it's like during the dry season, so that way we know the fire department should have these mechanisms in place when we get into the dry season, that, these things should be set up in around the island, various communities, just in case, especially, the hotspots where fires are likely to occur.
Right.
It makes it get a faster response, I would say, just in case there is a situation that will occur.
Yeah, and I wish for the business people to contribute. At times people tend to depend on government and doing this and government and doing that. We want corporate Grenada and our citizens to become more responsible. Let us dig into our resources, our contacts somewhere and say, this is what we identify. We have community leaders said, you know what, if we get together in this community, we get a pump set up, we have access from this river or somewhere. Before the fire people come on, we have this community leaders and group that they can start the process, they can attach hose, they can attach things and get things.
But there are
happening.
people who knows the know-how.
Of course.
There are people who know the know-how. Let's take a caller, Mr. Mark. We have limited time though, but let's take a caller. I'll beg of you to be brief, please. Caller via WhatsApp. Good morning, you're welcome.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
We're doing
not
good,
bad.
sir.
Not too bad at all.
Yeah. So I'm trying to talk about a lot of stuff that I'm not going to be lengthy anyway. But I'm just trying to say, complete to the violence that kind of taking place in Grenada. It's not new, but we have to find some place of control. I hear people talking about the SSU. I know one time when you have a problem that is started emerging in Grenada, the SSU and them will step in. I don't know if the SSU is still in operational. And, when the SSU come out, they take care of things. What I notice in Grenada is they have a assembly of people, even in Snow Corner over there, that is like people drinking is like just a reckless environment. Like you're seeing something's going to happen. Because you see some people, they're not working. They wake up in the morning, they're in the shop, they're jumping up, they're making noise. It's not even carnival time. I'm just saying. And these are some things that you see emerging. You know that these people, idle hands, you know what idle hands does? And I hope that I don't want us to stay there and say, well, it's not happening, it's just that it was only 2 incidents, because that's how we start. I live in a place where violence is violence and gang, and people try to get into a gang, and it's just a follow-up. The thing that pisses me off sometimes, is that all these people that always trying to make gangs in the Caribbean doesn't even understand what gangs is all about. A gang is all about not letting somebody come into your community and destroy your community. They used to be protecting that. You know what I'm saying? That's what they say, take a community to raise a child. Not gang, these guys and them now go happy, they watch television, they see gangs in LA, and they see people in America in gangs, they're running away from it, because at the end of the day, what do you get from it? Zero. Nothing. You know what I'm saying? Good morning, bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. We do have another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yes, good morning. Very quickly. Some years ago,
There was established throughout Grenada and Carriacou these citizens advisory bodies who work together with the police. As a matter of fact, I was part of one. When I was approached, I said, why me? And then I said, why not me? These groups, in my opinion, I don't know if they're still operational, but I think they included all different persons, business people, etc., from the various communities. And I thought that they were very instrumental in working together with the police in various areas to assist in doing a number of things. If they're not operational, I want to suggest that maybe that is one aspect where I heard, Mr. McIntyre talking about citizens and business people getting involved, so that I think is critical. The other thing is that, I think that maybe amongst the law enforcement cadre, there should be persons, hopefully, that from time to time gets trained in various aspects. So a window is broken, and it has to be replaced, and the government is taking, or the Ministry of Works is taking months. Come on, a weekend, something. I know sometimes long ago there would be people coming from on various battleships or so forth, so on. They would attend to various institutions. Maybe our law enforcement personnel can acquire some skills, and in their spare time they can also add to these things. So that when the government is taking too long, maybe these things can be fixed, so that we have a better productivity coming out of this collaboration between law enforcement and the public. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution, and certainly do appreciate it. So, Mac, we are about to wrap today's program.
As we're about to wrap, though, I want to really let the caller know that's one of the initiatives of the Grenada Police Force. They do have skilled people who usually do some of these things. As a matter of fact, there's something called the Artisan Squad. It was born out of initiatives like these, where skilled officers came together and assisted other officers and other members of the community. It's something that is still ongoing. Something, and the Citizen Advisory Body, I know they do exist, but they need maybe to be revamped a little bit in most places. But as we close, though, in terms of the crime and violence and everything else, a life is a life. And on behalf of myself, maybe the GBN family, we still like to express our condolences to the grieving family for those persons who died, unfortunately, under those trying circumstances. And Grenada take a piece from this that, things do happen, but we have to find a resolve and always go back to what the root causes may have been and take corrective measures as we look positively towards the future and how we can do things differently and better.
All right. I do appreciate that. Mr. Mac, thanks once again for being on the program this morning. Always, of course, interesting program, sharing information. And I know there are lots of listeners and viewers who do appreciate the information that we disperse here on a Monday. Of course, that gives them a kind of positive insight of how things to make a difference for themselves and their communities also, and Grenada as a whole.
Yes.
All right.
So we registered that this morning. We had no females. We hope females are also listening to the program.
There's always a good feedback from the females.
We get feedback from them, don't call. But that's good.
All right. Hey, folks, that's where we take a wrap for today's program. Thanks to all who contributed towards today's program. And see, the phones are still going, but it's where we take a wrap for today. Join us again next week when myself and Mr. McIntyre will be back once the Almighty permits, health, strength, and everything else. We will be back here, but you can join me again tomorrow. And, of course, with the same result, once the Almighty projects health, strength, and everything, I'll be back with you. Have a good one, folks. That's where we say goodbye for this edition of The Point.